Is Canada in a recession? I'm Brian Lilley with TheRebel.Media. That's the big political question right now. Is Canada in a recession? It's being argued over by people that just want to get your vote, and they think that if they convince you that we are or we aren't, or we were or we were not in a recession, that somehow you'll change your mind and vote for them. So what's the reality? Well, you keep hearing this term, technical recession. What does that mean? I think it means technically we are or were in a recession. Let me read to you from the first line of the StatsCan report on gross domestic product for the second quarter. It says, real gross domestic product declined 0.1% in the second quarter, following a 0.2% decrease in the first quarter. On a monthly basis, real GDP by industry rose 0.5% in June. There's enough in there for everyone, isn't there? The NDP and the Liberals are going to say, look, this proves that we were in a recession. 2 quarters of contraction. That's what qualifies as a recession. The Conservatives, they're going to do what Stephen Harper's doing, and they're going to point to that 0.5% growth in June, and the fact that as a recession, as far as recessions go, this one's not broadly based. There's an awful lot of parts of the economy that are still growing. And in fact, that's what Stephen Harper did at a news conference Tuesday morning.
The Canadian economy as a whole is now growing according to the June figures. So that is the reality. That is the reality of the situation. It is good news. And thank God we didn't use a couple of months' weak data to go out and commit this country to 3 years of deficit spending and huge tax increases like the other guys would have done.
Now, we all know that if it were the Liberals or the NDP in charge and these numbers came out, that Stephen Harper wouldn't let them off the hook. Well, they didn't let him off the hook Tuesday morning either. They hammered him, saying his plan's not working.
Stephen Harper's approach has not worked to grow the economy, to create the kinds of jobs and opportunities that Canadians need. And that's why we put forward a plan that invests in Canada, invests in growth.
Mr. Harper's plan clearly isn't working. The NDP has a clear plan to create jobs, to stimulate the economy, to protect the jobs that exist, and to create the next generation of well-paid jobs.
Okay, so to get back to the original question, are we in a recession or are we not? Well, Bloomberg, the financial news agency, says this might be Stephen Harper taking blame for a recession that was over before it really began. Let me read to you from the story. Though the economy is as weak as it can get outside of a recession, employment is rising, up by 102,000 jobs since the start of the year, with only 1/3 of industries recording any significant contraction in output over that time. It's also unlikely the slump has spread regionally much beyond the oil-producing province of Alberta. Then they quote Bank of Montreal chief economist Doug Porter, who says, I would still lean against it just because I don't think it was broadly based enough to fully qualify as a recession. The fact that employment continued to rise and consumer spending was still positive wouldn't meet the definition of a recession. Porter's not alone in saying that this doesn't really qualify. So what are you and I to make of it? Well, fact is we had 2 quarters of negative growth. That probably qualifies as a recession, thus the much bandied about term technical recession. Is the economy still contracting or is it broadly based? No. It looks like the economy is turning around. Is it stellar growth? No, but it's growth. Things are moving along, and it is mostly confined, the contraction is mostly confined to the extraction industries, oil, gas, mining. That is cold comfort to you if you happen to be in those industries. But the fact is, Canada's economy is not in a slump all on its own, and it's not in a slump due to factors just inside Canada. This is a worldwide instability. We're talking about the Chinese stock market. We're talking about the collapse in oil prices. We're talking about the fact that the United States, despite some numbers that would suggest otherwise, is still not doing that great. Remember, their unemployment number may look lower, but they use a different yardstick to measure unemployment, and when you compare apples to apples, theirs is actually much higher. We are facing an uphill battle in this country, and just throwing around terms like recession or his plan's not working or our plan is, that won't get you to the bottom of this. Were we in a recession? Sure. Are we still? Probably not. Not according to Bloomberg, one of the top financial news agencies in the world. They say this is the recession that was over before it even began.